Greetings everyone and welcome to Busisiwe, blessed in English, Baruch in Hebrew, which means increase, fruitfulness and multiplication. I'm Abigail. We continue with the series on the end time sequence of events, and we have covered I think 5 so far, 5 events. Otherwise you can actually term them as 5 milestones. The first one was that the judgment begins in the house of Yahuwah. The second one was the times of distress. And then the third one was the 3 days of darkness. The fourth one was the gathering, otherwise known as the second Exodus. And then the fourth one was, or rather the fifth one was the wilderness. And as we're going through this sequence of events, or the sequence of the milestone that we foresee for the coming as written in the scriptures before Yahusha comes back, we looked at both the teachings. What is the word saying concerning these milestones or this sequence of events before Yahusha comes back, as well as the prophecies whom the Ruach of Aleph Beth, or the Ruach of Yahuwah, has revealed to us over the period of time. And then today we're going to continue then on the event or the milestone, which is titled 2 Witnesses and the 144,000. Please note that in as much as we speak about this sequence of events, they are not interlinear, or how they happen, that this one must exactly finish and then the other one will start. Some of them will actually, some of these events, these end time events, they will be happening simultaneously. And what you're going to be focusing on, as I said then today, is then the 2 witnesses and the 144,000, which you find in the book of Revelation chapter 11 verse 3, where it says, "And I shall give to my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy for 1,260 days, wearing sackcloth." Now, with that banner scripture that I've just read, I just want to also highlight something, that if you look at the pattern of how Yahuwah works, remember we spoke about that Yahuwah showed his ways to Moshe, but his acts to the children of Israel, which means that he has revealed how he works, or his ways, to those whom he chose to reveal his ways. And we can be able to see that generally he operates through patterns, even though it's not going to be exactly the same thing, but we can just see that more or less. Even the scripture tells us, the book of Ecclesiastes, that chapter 1, there is nothing new under the sun. What has been is what will be. If we look at the book of Matthew, or chapter 18, verse 19 to 20, it says, excuse me, "Again, I say to you that if 2 of you agree on earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the Shamayim, or in the heavens. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in their midst." So you can always see here that in terms of partnership, or how Yahuwah works, the minimum that he works with is at least 2. And another pattern of 2 that we see, this is, remember, this section is covering 2 witnesses. So we're trying to see a pattern as to where else did we see Yahuwah working with pairs, and working with 2 people, pairs actually. In the book of, when we're reading the book of Enoch, and we're reading about the times, usually it's not only in the book of Enoch, it was in the book of Jubilees and Yasha, where it was talking about the flood, the times of Noah. Remember, Yahusha said when his talmidim or disciples were asking him, what will be the signal of his coming? What will be the sign of his coming? And his answer was to them, as it was in the times of Noah, so shall it be on the coming of the Son of Man. So that is why we are focusing so much as to what was happening in the times of Noah. And what we see in the times of Noah was that Yahweh also appointed 2 people to preach the message of repentance, 2 people to preach or to witness of his goodness and the judgment that was going to come upon the earth. And those 2 people was Noah and Methuselah. And the word tells us that they were preaching day and night for 120 years, constantly speaking to the people, but the sons of men would not listen to them, nor incline to their ears to the words which they were speaking, because they were stiff-necked. All right. And then also, do you remember that Noah had to put animals in the ark? I spoke about this, I think, in the previous section where I was saying that we all know that the animals were scattered around in the entire earth. So how did they come to Noah? Noah would have been impractical for him to go and collect them wherever they were, particularly also if you think about the birds of the air, they would have been everywhere. But we spoke about that also seen in the book of Yahshua chapter 6, that Yahweh is the one that brought them. He brought the animals, all of them, in front of the ark, and then he instructed Noah that he must take 2 of each of the unclean animals, basically take the pairs of unclean animals into the ark. So, and we also spoke about this thing last week, but before even that remembrance of last week is, what I want to emphasize is that even to that extent of the animals, Yahweh wanted 2 animals or a pair of each kind to be a witness of the survival of the animals when the rest would have been destroyed in the flood. That would be used as a witness of seeing the favor of Yahweh upon the earth. And we also spoke about now all the animals were next to the ark. How was he going to know which 2 of each kind to take? Because obviously the remainder of each kind. But the word told us that Yahweh told Noah that whichever of these animals will crouch before you or humble itself before you, you will then take 2 of those. Anyone of the animal that will stand, then you will not take of those. And that was a sign also of those who inherit the kingdom of the Shamayim are the humble ones. Humility is key. Continuing with where we also see the patterns of pairs is Yahusha, when he was sending the 12 emissaries or the 12 disciples, he actually sent them 2 by 2. He sent them in pairs, and we see this in the book of Luke chapter 10 verse 1 amongst others. And then it says, after he had sent the 12, later he appointed the 72. And I know some of the versions, those versions don't say 72 disciples were sent later. It says 70 disciples were saved, or sort of were sent later. But if you look at NIV, for example, NIV, NLT, ESV, CEV, and NET, all those versions, they actually say that Yahusha appointed 72. And he sent this 72 in pairs. So 72 multiplied by 2 is 144,000. So already inasmuch as we read, or we're going to read about the 144,000 in the book of Revelation, we already see in the book of Luke chapter 10 that when Yahusha was sending the next group, which was the 72, sending them in pairs, as had been the practice on how he works, that he sent his ministers in pairs, then 72 times 2 gives us the 144,000. The other example also in the word where we see the pairs or two witnesses is in the case of Yahusha, the son of Nun, as well as Caleb. You would recall that these are the two witnesses of Yahuwah had sent, sorry, it wasn't Yahuwah, it was Moshe. Moshe had sent 12 spies to go and spy the land, but of the 12, it's only the two, being Yahusha, otherwise known as Joshua, Yahusha son of Nun, as well as Caleb. Those are the only two witnesses that came with a good report. The other 10, they actually brought fear to the people and say that even though the land is good and their fruits are good, but they are giants and that they were not able to. It was the two witnesses that witnessed about the power of Yahusha to be able to deliver them, and that who said, even though they be giants, but Yahuwah will be able to deliver us. Moving along, where else did we see the two witnesses? We see the two witnesses also being mentioned in the book of Zechariah chapter 4 verse 11 to 14, and it says, "Then I responded and said to him, what are these two olive trees?" So what are we seeing there? Two olive trees, one at the right hand of the lampstand, and the other one on its left. And I responded a second time and said to him, what are these two olive branches which empty the golden oil from themselves by means of two golden pipes? So we see two olive trees, two olive branches, two golden stand, emptying the golden oil, and as well as two golden pipes. Verse 13, and he answered me and said, do not perceive what these are. And I said, no, Adoni. And he said to me, these are the two sons of oil who stand beside Adoni of all the earth, or of all the earth. So these two olive trees, these two branches, the two golden pipes, they actually are a reflection of, and we are told that they are the two sons of oil who stand before Yahuwah. And what does Revelation 11 verse 3 tells us? It says, and I shall give to my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days in sackcloth. So this is the banner script that we open with, that who are these two witnesses? But again, Revelation 11 chapter 3, it also mentioning two witnesses towards which will come before Yahusha returns. And then reading along on the scripture, Revelation chapter 7 verse 2, it says, and I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Yahuwah, and he cried with a loud voice to the four messengers, to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed 7 of our Yahuwah upon their foreheads. So this angel was saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until the servants of Yahuwah have been sealed on or upon their foreheads. This is Revelation chapter 7 verse 2. Continuing verse 3, it says, verse 4, then it says, and I had the number of those who were sealed, 144,000, sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yisrael. So out of the tribe of the so the 144,000, we see that they are coming from the children of Yisrael. 12,000 from Yehuda, 12,000 from Reuben, 12,000 from Gad, 12,000 from Asher, 12,000 from the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000 were still from the tribe of Manasseh, and another 12,000 from the tribe of Shimon, from the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Zebulun, the tribe of Lewi, the tribe of Yusuf, as well as Benjamin. So in total, 12,000 times 12 gives us the 144,000, which is the 144,000 that is referenced here in Revelation 7 verse 2. We are told that they are coming from the tribe of Israel, or the sons of Israel. I want you to note something, that as I was mentioning these tribes, and also if you read yourself Revelation 7 verse 2, the tribe of Dan is not mentioned in this chapter, or yes, in this chapter. And Dan was one of the sons of Israel. So then the question is, how come Dan was not included? But on the contrary, we see that Manasseh was the one who was included. Remember, Manasseh was not the son of Yisrael by descent or by birth, but Manasseh was a son of Yusuf together with Ephraim. But you would recall in Genesis chapter 48 that you'll recall that in Genesis chapter 48, this is where you see that Yisrael adopted the two sons of Yusuf, being Ephraim as well as Manasseh. And he even says in Genesis or Parashah chapter 48 that they are going to be my sons, just as Reuben and Shimon are my sons. So they're going to take the full rights, full benefits, everything, full inheritance, as if they were my biological children. Any other kids other than these two, Yusuf, that you're going to get, those then are yours, but these ones are mine. So here we see a combination of both Yisrael being made up of the sons of Yisrael by birth or by descent, as well as the adopted one being Manasseh. And that's why I've been emphasizing this point throughout the teachings, that you are a child, or you are part of Yisrael either by birth or descent, or by adoption, and you maintain the full status. There is no difference between the adopted one and the ones that were born by birth. Now, here is another important aspect to note, which I've also been emphasizing as we've been going through these teachings. The fact that you are Yisrael by birth does not automatically qualify you to enter the reign of the Shamayim, or the kingdom of heaven. It is obedience that qualifies you to enter the kingdom of heaven, or the reign of the Shamayim. How do we see that? Dan is not included in the 144,000 that we are referring to here in Revelation 7 verse 2. And why is it that Dan was not included? We will discuss that some other time, but we see the disobedience and provoking Yahuwah so much that was conducted by the tribe of Dan, and it is for this particular reason that they were excluded from this 144,000. But on the contrary, those that were Yisrael by adoption, in this case Manasseh, they actually are included in the 144,000. And this then addresses the misconception that was said before, that the 144,000 are only Yisrael by descent or by birth. And we have now just seen in what I've just explained here that even the adopted one were included in the 144,000 as the adopted tribe or sons of Yisrael. Excuse me. As we continue, if we look also in the book of, we still are looking at the two witnesses as well as the 144,000. And when we look there, we then see that in Revelation chapter 14 verse 1, it says, "And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written upon their forehead. His name is Yahuwah." So remember that it was talking about, when we read in the previous, it was Revelation 7 verse 2. Revelation 7 verse 2 is started by saying that the messenger was told not to destroy the earth until the servants of Yahuwah have been sealed upon their foreheads. And now then Revelation 14 verse 1 then shows us what is the seal that is upon these servants of Yahuwah, and who are these servants of Yahuwah. Then Revelation 14 verse 1 then tells us that these were, it says, Revelation 14 verse 1, "And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him the 144,000. These 144,000 having his father's name written upon their foreheads." What is the father's name? The father's name is Yahuwah. It is not a title which is Lord or God. It is not also his character, because a lot of people say no, the name of Yahuwah is just a parable, or it's a figurative indication of his character. Here, it is true that a name of an individual is his character, but it is both the name as the literal name as well as the character. But in this case, the writing on the forehead is not the writing of a character, it's the writing of the actual name. And what is the Father's name? The Father's name is Yahuwah. And we also have if you go to Busisiwe's YouTube account, under the playlist that says "We Are Yisrael," know who you are, know your identity, know your Creator's name and His Son's name. That playlist also has a teaching about the name of Yahuwah. Moving along then in Revelation 14 verse 3, it says, "And they sang a renewed song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders, and no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth." So we see that the 144,000 are not coming from the Shamayim, are not coming from the heaven. They are actually redeemed from the earth. So they are from the people that are from within the earth, redeemed from the earth, from the tribe of Yisrael, as we read in Revelation chapter 7. They are those who were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads them. They were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to Yahuwah and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no falsehood or no guile, for they are blameless before the throne of Yahuwah. Now, as we read Revelation 14 verse 3, some people are saying that the 144,000 will only be men, as in male figures, male. But because the scripture is talking about the 144,000, and I don't agree with that, because if we read the book of Matthew chapter 25, it speaks about the 10 virgins, 5 wise and 5 who were foolish. Now, does it mean that the kingdom of heaven or the reign of the Shamayim is the only people that are going to enter the kingdom of heaven are women? That's not true. So in this case, virgin refers to purity. It refers to being set apart unto Yahuwah. It refers to not being defiled by Babel. That's why Yahusha constantly say, come out from among them, my people, referring to that we should come out of the Babel system, whether in terms of its religious system of Babel, the commercial aspect of Babel, every ways that has to do with Babel or Babylon, we have to be set apart and come out of them. Another thing that we see with regards to the 144,000, it says that these 144,000 will be the first fruits to Yahuwah. Who else or where else do you see the word first fruits? Yahushua HaMashiach became the first fruits to Yahuwah. Hence we celebrate the first fruits as part of the appointed times. Remember, when you look at the appointed times, it starts with the Pesach or the Passover, and the first fruits, and then the unleavened bread. And the first fruits refers to the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach, who became the first to be resurrected from the dead by Yahuwah himself, and set and became a priest, a high priest for us on the right hand of the Father. So this is where now the 144,000, they will also be like Yahusha, just like Yahusha was the first fruits. Even the 144,000 will be the first fruits to Yahuwah, just as Yahusha was. And remember, the appointed times, they are written in Leviticus chapter 23. If we read 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 20, this is also where it tells us about Yahushua HaMashiach being first fruit. It says, 1 Corinthians 15:20, but now Mashiach has been raised from the dead and has become the first fruits of those having fallen asleep. For since death was through a man, resurrection of the dead is also through a man. For all died in Adam, so also all shall be made alive in Mashiach, and each in his own order. Mashiach the first fruits, then those who are Mashiach at his coming. So this is how then we see the order, that it would be Mashiach is already, or Yahushua HaMashiach already became the first fruits unto Yahuwah, and then after him, then it will be then the 144,000, and then it talks about then verse 23 of 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and each in his own order, Mashiach first fruits, then those who are of Mashiach when he comes. Who are of Mashiach when he comes? Those who are holding on to his commandment, believing his commandment and his name. Then as we conclude this part on the two witnesses, I want to touch also on the aspect that a lot of people have been asking the question as to who are these two witnesses. People have come up with different beliefs to say who these two witnesses could be, but let's see what the word says. Now, from my side, and remember that the word does not specifically say the names of the two witnesses, but from what I believe is that the two witnesses, they actually refer to Moshe and Eliyahu, or otherwise known as Elijah. Why do I believe that the two witnesses is Moshe or Moses and Eliyahu or Elijah? Remember, the whole reason for Yahusha to come was to reconcile, and he even says that I was not sent except to the house of Israel. And we know that the house of Israel is split into two kingdoms, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And his coming was to combine these tribes who were now divided into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom into being one tribe, being the tribe of Israel, and one kingdom, which is the kingdom of Israel, not two kingdoms. And if we remember, the southern kingdom was made up of Yehuda, and from Yehuda it was the two being Yehuda and Benjamin. Those were the parts of the southern kingdom. And then the remaining 10 sons of Israel, they then formed part of the northern kingdom. But in the end times, and what he's working on right now is to unite these 12 tribes together. And that's why earlier on, as we're talking about the two olive trees, who are these two olive trees? Who are these two olive trees? It refers to the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Zechariah chapter 4 verse 11 to 14 also mentioned the two branches, again the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and that emptying the golden oil from themselves into one. And it told us then, Zechariah chapter 4 verse 11 at verse 14, that these are the two sons of oil, two from these two tribes who are now going to be united to one. Now, why then further am I saying that Moshe and Eliyahu? Now, if we read the lineage of Moshe, Moshe came from the tribe of Lewi, or the Levites. And the tribe of Levites, or the tribe of Lewi, were one of the northern kingdom, which were included in the 10 tribes that combined together to form part of the northern kingdom. That's where the Levites were, and Moshe is a Levite. And then if we also read in terms of where does Eliyahu or Elijah, which lineage, which tribe is he coming from? We see that Elijah comes from the tribe of Benjamin, or the tribe of Benjamin. And remember earlier on I mentioned that the tribe of Benjamin combined with the tribe of Yehuda to form part of the southern kingdom. So we see that in most likelihood these two witnesses would then be Moshe and Eliyahu or Elijah, because Moshe comes from the tribe of Levites, where the 10 tribes combined forming the northern kingdom. Eliyahu or Elijah comes from the tribe of Benjamin, where the southern kingdom comes from. But the two are then going to be working together, for Yahweh wants to combine the two kingdoms into one. The other thing also that we read about these two witnesses, it says, these two having the gift to teach and manifest the power of Yahuwah. Now, what are we seeing here? We're seeing that there is the teaching aspect and the manifestation of power here. What happened with Yahusha when he sent out his disciples? It tells us that Yahusha sent his disciples to make disciples of other nations, teaching them to observe all that I have taught you. He gave them authority over unclean ruachs. Whatever they bind or loose on earth shall be loose in heaven. So we see Yahusha imparting upon his disciples the gift of teaching, as well as the gift of miracles, in terms of operating in the gift of miracles, delivering people from the unclean ruachs, and whatever they bind on earth will be bound on heaven, and whatever they loose will also be loose in heaven. And if we just look at these two servants of the Most High here, is that Moshe was the one who taught, in as much as he was a prophet, but he also taught, we see him more in the teaching gift than in the prophetic gift. Moshe operated, if we were to compare the two, if we were to compare Moshe and Eliyahu, you will see that Moshe operated mainly in the gift of teaching, as he was teaching the people the commandments of Yahuwah. And they spent 40 years with Moshe teaching them the commandments of Yahuwah, because Yahuwah had revealed his word to Moshe and gave him the ability to write them down, which we see in the Torah, which is the instructions of Yahuwah. On the other hand, a lot of what we see about Eliyahu or Elijah, he's performing miracles more than he is teaching. There's not much that we hear about Elijah teaching concerning the commandments of Yahuwah or the instructions of Yahuwah, but we see him more operating in the prophetic, and we see him more operating in the gift of miracles. So that's then looking at the 144,000 as well as the two witnesses. What else do we see about the two witnesses? The word tells us that, and I shall give to my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy for 1,260 days or 3.5 years in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two lampstands that are standing before Yahuwah of the Arabs. We just read in the book of Zechariah chapter 4 verse 7 to 4, and Revelations chapter 11 verse 3 and 4 now specifically tells us that these two witnesses are two olive trees and two lampstands standing before Yahuwah. We also spoke about this, I think it was in the book of Romans. I can't remember which chapter in the book of Romans where we're talking about that the olive tree by descent are the ones that are born of Yisrael, but then the wild olive tree is then engrafted into this olive tree. So we see the olive tree being a representation of Yisrael. Now it is two olive trees because the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. The two lampstands, the two branches that we are referring to, who are now combined into one. These are the two witnesses. Verse 5, it says, and if anyone wishes to harm them, fire comes out from their mouth and consume their enemies. What happened, what did Eliyahu or Elijah do in Mount Carmel? That's when he called on the fire to come and consume the false prophet when they were on Mount Carmel. That's where we see him operating in the miracles or the gift seen in the form of fire. And it says, if anyone wishes to harm them, he must be killed in that way. These possess authority to shut the heaven. Now, the same two witnesses were told that they possess the authority to shut the heaven. What did Eliyahu do, or what did Elijah do? The word tells us that he commanded that there will be no rain for 3.5 years. And the word tells us that it has never happened before Eliyahu's time that a human man can command the heaven to be shut and that no rain comes for 3.5 years. And since his time, it has never been ever again. But this is the power and the authority of which Elijah or Eliyahu operated in, which the gift that Yahweh gave him. And we are told in Revelation chapter 11 verse 6 that these two witnesses, they operate or they possess the authority to shut the heavens, which, like I just said now, the reason why I believe it is Moshe and Eliyahu is then also the fact that Eliyahu is the only person who not only caused fire to come down from heaven and kill the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, but he also had the power and authority to shut the heavens, that there was no rain for 3.5 hours. Sorry, for 3.5 days. Then the word tells us that these two witnesses, that they will they possess the authority to shut the heavens so that no rain falls in the Yomim, in the days of their prophecy. And they possess authority over the waters to turn them to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they wish. Now here we go again as to why I believe it's Moshe and Elijah or Eliyahu. Who turned water into blood? It was Moshe, by the power of the Most High, by the power given to him by Yahweh, that he gave him that power to change the Nile River into blood. And the word tells us that these two witnesses will also be operating the same authority to change water into blood, and that they will smite the earth with all plagues as often as they wish. Who else used by Yahweh unleashed, strike midstream with plagues, 10 plagues? It was Moshe. Moshe is the one that Yahweh used, and he had given him authority to bring about those plagues in Midstream. And it is all this for me that I truly believe that with the scriptural reference that I've just made and the examples, these two witnesses are Moshe and Eliyahu or Elijah. Verse 7, it says, and when they've ended their witness, the beast coming up out of the pits of the deep shall fight against them and overcome them and kill them. Now, what happened with the emissaries? The emissaries of Yahusha were also killed, martyred painfully, all of them, starting from Stephen, Jacob, otherwise known as James, Shimon, otherwise known as Kepha or Peter, and all of them were painfully killed. Yahukanon was put in the boiling oil. So we see that hence when I speak about having the belief in Yahuwah, of saying even if we should be prepared to die for Yahuwah, because even as we read of these two witnesses with all the the gift upon their lives, with all the anointing upon their lives, with all the power upon their lives, but they also are killed. And it is Yahuwah who has ordained it. It's not like they just were out of power. No. Verse 7, it says, and when they've ended their witness, so they're going to finish their witness, then the beast coming up out of the pit of the deep shall fight against them and overcome them, and will then kill them. Verse 8, and their dead bodies lie in the streets of the great city, which ruachli, or spiritually, is called Sodom and Mitzrim, where also our Adoni Yahushua HaMashiach was impaled. And some of the peoples and tribes and tongues and the Goyim, or the Gentiles, seeing their dead bodies for 3.5 days, and not allow their dead bodies to be placed in the tombs. And those dwelling on the earth rejoiced over them and were happy, and they shall send gift to each other, because the two prophets tortured those dwelling in the earth. Now, again, Revelation chapter 11, verse 9, it tells us that these two witnesses are two prophets. And that's why I started by saying Moshe was a prophet, Eliyahu or Elijah was also the prophet. The difference between these two prophets is that in terms of the gift operating or manifested more in their lives, as Yahuwah allowed it, or as Yahuwah instructed them, that Moshe operated more in the gift of teaching, and Eliyahu operated more in the gift of prophetic, or in the gift of miracles rather, in the gift of miracles and demonstration of Yahuwah's power. Not that the other one didn't do, but it's just more of the other. Verse 11, and after 3.5 days, a breath of life from Yahuwah entered them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. And they heard a loud voice from the heaven saying to them, come up here. And they went up into the heaven in a cloud. Now, what do you also recall? Who went up from earth to heaven in a cloud? It was Yahusha. Because remember, after he was seen by everyone for 40 days, he was then, it was in Mount Olives, that's right, where he was then, talking about Mount Olives, where he was taken in a cloud up to heaven, and his disciples watching him. Then the angel appeared to them and says, why are you staring like this in heaven? The same Yahusha who is taken to heaven in this manner, he also will come the very same manner when he comes back. So this is where that just like Yahusha was taken after his resurrection, he went to heaven in a cloud. Even also these two witnesses, after being resurrected by Yahuwah after 3.5 days, then they will also be taken up in the cloud. And their enemies saw them, and in that hour there came to be a great earthquake, and a tenth of the city, and the earthquake, and in the earthquake 7,000 men were killed, and the rest became afraid and gave esteem to the Yahuwah of the heaven. This is the second war, and see, the third war is coming speedily. This is Revelation chapter 11 from verse 3 to verse 11. Now, the other aspect, that as we are looking at both the two witnesses and looking at the 144,000, I also believe that the 144,000 will be assisted by the angels in their assignment that they will be tasked to do. And we will look at the prophecies that make me believe that indeed these 144,000 will be assisted by the Malachim in the work that Yahweh would have tasked them to do. The first prophecy, I had it on the 18th of November 2021. So on the 18th of November 2021, I dreamt seeing angels in the sky that could be seen by the people I was with. And in that same setting, I saw Simon in the background. Well, in this case, Simon is the guy that I used to work with back then. And he was just sitting, we were sitting in a sort of like a church setting or arrangement with lots of other people. Remember, Simon in Hebrew, it's actually Shimon. And Shimon was one of the 12 sons of Yisrael with mighty strength as a fighter. And the name Shimon literally means he who hears. And you'll recall that throughout these teachings, I have been saying that we need to hear and do, which is the Hebrew word Shama. It talks about Shama Yisrael. Shama means hear and do. It's not only hearing, but it is also doing. And the last prophecy regarding the belief that these 144,000 will be assisted by the Malachim or will be assisted by the angels in whatever Yahweh has tasked them to do. On the 15th of July 2022, I saw myself in a scene where the people I was with saw creatures in the sky, but suddenly we then saw creatures in the sky. This was the 15th of July 2022. I remember trying to take the pictures with my camera of these creatures. Then these creatures descended from heaven and they landed on the ground. They were actually angels, and there were 12 angels. Remember, number 12. Yahusha's first disciples and emissaries, there were 12. The tribe or the sons of Israel, we also see the 12 sons of Israel who became then the 12 tribes of Israel. And in this case, and in the dream that I had, I then saw angels who descended and landed on the ground. It was 12 of them. I approached them. I actually approached one of them and I asked him whose name were they coming to preach on, because remember, in the time that you're going to be living in, there are angels, there are fallen angels, and the angels of the Most High. How are you going to distinguish the two? How are you going to know that are these the angels of the Most High, seeing and knowing that Satan himself transformed himself in the angel as an angel of light, or as the Malachim of light? So are his followers as well. So that is the reason why in the dream I specifically asked them whose name were they coming on, who are they coming to preach. I specifically then asked them, are you coming to preach in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach? And they said yes. And that's when that I knew that these were the angels from the Most High. Now have a look at these 12 angels. As I spoke about that, I believe that these 12 angels were allocated or will be allocated by Yahweh to assist the 144,000. Is that there is 144,000, which is representative of 12 tribes or 12 sons, 12 tribes of Yisrael. Each has 12,000. So 12,000 12,000 times, so 12 times 12 basically, 12,000 times 12,000, that's where we got the 144,000. Now of each of the 12,000, then an angel is allocated to this group. So 12,000 will have one angel, another 12,000, another one angel, and so forth. So each group of 12,000 will be allocated a malachim. This is the revelation that I got through the dream, as I've just explained on the 15th of July 2022, that when these 12 angels descended, I specifically asked them, are they coming to preach in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach? And they said yes. Now 12,000 times 12 is then equal to 144,000, and that's why we then see that each of the 12,000 from the 12th tribe of Israel will then have an angel allocated to them. So this is where we're going to end the teaching on the two witnesses as well as the 144,000, and we will then, after a short break, we'll then look at another milestone or another event on this sequence of events, and that would be the reign of the Antichrist, or the reign of the anti-Messiah.